Okay, so what I like to do is like what I'm stuffing is I cut little pockets into my chicken.
Okay.
A lot of people will score on the top,
Okay.
or a lot of people will just butterfly all the way out.
Yeah.
I'd rather just create a pocket and just stuff inside that pocket so it has its own little area to kind of blend into.
Nice.
So what I do is I put my hand flat down here and I insert my knife into the chicken breast about as far back as I feel with my middle finger.
Okay.
And I come back and I just very carefully cut the slit almost down to the edge of the chicken.
Okay.
There. So that way, now that I have it open, now you get a nice little pocket that you can stuff inside.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice.
So now when I'm adding my ingredients, I didn't have to worry about butterflying, separating it,
Right.
come back, tying it back up.
Right.
I just stuff everything in my little pocket and I'm good to go.
Gotcha.
But the important thing about actually creating the pocket is you want to make sure you get flavor inside of that too. So
Okay.
when I season, because before I season my chicken, I season inside the pocket as well
Okay.
as outside of the chicken.
Okay.
All right, so we got our pockets here.
Nice.
We'll go ahead and we'll start making our stuffing
Okay.
for the chicken, and then we'll go ahead and get everything assembled, get the chicken seasoned, and we'll get it seared off and put it in the oven.
Nice.
So now we're gonna make our stuffing for our chicken breast. So I'll take some baby spinach here. What I'm gonna do with the baby spinach is, because we got whole leaves, I'm gonna get us a rough chop. So I'm gonna try to roll them up as much as possible. So then I can give it a nice uniform chop with each. Next, we're gonna add our sun-dried tomatoes.
Do you have a favorite dish?
My favorite dish is probably ossobuco.
What in the world is that?
And
That sounds like a drink.
No, ossobuco is you can do it with either a beef or a lamb shank. What it is braised meat, but then you add it into like a tomato sauce, and you add red wine and let it all cook down together. Put it in like a Dutch oven, let it cook slowly down, and it's a really nice myriad of flavor there. I mean, you have your protein, you have the sauce that is cooked in, you have the red wine, and all of them come together. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. Last component is going to be our feta cheese. Now feta, I wanted a pretty liberal amount of feta here. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of olive oil to it. And I'm going to come back and season my stuffing here. And once again, I'm only using this pink Himalayan salt and just cracked black pepper. I like to get in and kind of use my hands and just kind of get everything mixed in.
So even to go visit other countries and cultures, that would be a good way to expand you as a chef.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, with anywhere that you're traveling, you know, you may not understand the language, you may not understand the politics of it, but the one commonality in those things is going to be the food there. You know, you wouldn't go somewhere and not eat. You know, you're going to find things that either you gravitate towards or you heard about, some things you want to try.
Right.
So the best way to immerse yourself in other cultures is to try the foods. Immerse yourself in the foods. And through those things, you find commonalities for things. You know, everybody has a version of, let's say, barbecue. Everybody has a stew or a soup or something that's native or indigenous to those guys here.
Right.
And as you'll find that we aren't really all that different as we think we are. You know, at the end of the day, people are people. We're only different through our experiences and our journeys and things.
Right.
Here. So as you start to travel, as you start to see things, you'll start to see things kind of through more of a harmonious and unified lens versus the separation of everything.
Got it.
You know, you're almost surprised when you go places in different countries and you see something that you either do that you like or something that you eat in another country. It becomes familiar to you. It becomes comforting to you.
Right.
So food is the same way. Food is the exact same way.
Yeah, that was a good perspective.
So what I'm doing now that I've made my stuffing here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chicken that I made our pockets in, and I'm going to season the pockets first. Like I said, what you want to do is season high, make sure, for one, you can see the seasonings going in, and for two, you're thorough with your process.
Wow.
Then what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna simply stuff our chicken with our mixture here.
Okay, so one thing you said that is, I know I've run into issues, and I'm sure you have too. Your food can be great, but how big is service?
Service is impeccable. Service is one of the most important things about food service because, to be honest, people can eat anywhere. People can eat chicken anywhere, people can eat steak anywhere. They don't necessarily have to come to your establishment to have those things. What people come for is they come for the food, but they also come for the service.
Yeah.
The food will stick with them as well as the service will, because the two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you been somewhere where just by the service alone made your whole meal mediocre? How many times has that happened to where if that person was a little nicer or a little bit more courteous, that food would have been outstanding? But because they had a poor service experience, it just soured the whole deal for me.
Yeah.
You know, when a person is happy or when a person is kind of in a better mood, they're more apt to try things, to do things, and actually have their palate actually kind of expand. When you're frustrated, upset, mad, one of the first things you do is lose your appetite. So
You're right.
the two goes hand in hand.
You're right.
You know, I don't know how many times that I've actually eaten a full meal when I'm upset or in a bad mood
That's true.
about something.
That's true.
You know, hey, when I'm happy, I'll try just about everything on the menu, try the wines, try everything.
That's true.
You know, so there's service goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So now that we've stuffed our chicken here, put all our stuffing back. What we want to do is we've seasoned the cavity. Now what we want to do is make sure we season the outside of the chicken as well.
All right.
So this is all I'm doing is I am rubbing the olive oil into the chicken here, because what we want to do before we bake this off, we're going to sear it on both sides.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to season the outside, front and back, and then we're going to put it in our skillet and then marry it right over to the oven. So the seasonings I'm going to use for this are a couple of different ones. I am actually going to use our Himalayan pink salt, our black pepper, garlic powder, chili powder, and this is an ancho chili powder.
Okay.
So has a little bit of a kick to it, but not so hot to where it's unbearable. It just has a different flavor profile. And when you're eating like sun-dried tomatoes and feta cheese that already has a kind of a slight tang to it, that balance is gonna be real nice on it.
Nice.
Now, the one thing I will tell you about pink Himalayan salt is that it's not as heavy or salty, if that's the right word, like some of the other white salts. I know some of the other white salts, you put a little bit and it stretches a lot, makes your food like really overbearing.
Yeah.
Pink Himalayan salt doesn't do that. It's very subtle.
Okay.
So it's really good to use with seasonings. I mean, you can overuse anything, but you'll be pretty hard pressed to overuse pink Himalayan salt. As you see, I started my salt all the way across, then I moved to my pepper, now I'm going to my garlic powder. I'm going to do the same thing with the remaining seasonings. What I'm going to do now is, now that I have my chicken here, so everything's here, I've actually started warming a pan already here. What I'm going to do is actually sear this chicken off on both sides.
Okay.
Kind of the same technique that we talked about before. I'm just searing on both sides to lock in the outside flavors here. I'm going to throw it back in the oven and cover it with foil and let it cook down for maybe about 30 minutes or so until we reach the desired internal temperature. So we'll move over to the stove, and what we'll do is oil our pan. Now, kind of a mistake that a lot of people make is not understanding oils. Like, oils have different burn concentrations and burn rates. So what you want to do is put your pan on the stove first to get your pan nice and hot. Then you add your oil in, because you don't want your oil to burn, because that way it's going to give it a real bitter taste if you don't do that first. And what we'll do is I'll bring my chicken over and we will layer it in.
So the pan heating up as So the pan heating up when you're putting the oil in there, before the pan is hot, it'll burn the oil.
It will.
Got
Because
it.
every oil has a different burn concentration. So, like vegetable oil burns very, very quickly. I think the highest burn concentration may be avocado oil.
Okay.
Grapeseed oil is pretty nice too, but they all burn at different rates. So if you're using an oil that, let's say, burns very quickly, you're either going to end up with uneven food, uneven flavor, and you definitely don't want that. So we're going to take maybe about 30 to 45 seconds on each side, let them get brown, and we'll toss them in the oven, and we'll go from there.
Nice.
All right, guys, so we're going to let this cook down for a couple of seconds here.
All right.
What I'm going to do to my pan here, this is the pan I'm going to be adding the chicken into. So I am going to oil my pan. And then what I'm going to do is take that leftover spinach and add it to the pan. And I'll just kind of rub this around a little bit, make sure it spreads the oil out. And the chicken will sit on this bed of spinach here. And I'll add a few sun-dried tomatoes here for good measure. So that way, once the chicken cooks and everything cooks down into it, we can even use the juices from that, combine that spinach and that sun-dried tomato. We can pour it back over as jus. But in this case, I am going to be making a sauce for this that we'll be using instead. But never hurts for having chicken, something to lay on. All right.
So, and put in the spinach on the bottom of the pan before you put the chicken on there to put it in the oven. Why do you do that? What inspired you to do that?
Well, only because, a lot of times when you're cooking with glass or Pyrex or anything, they're designed to hold high temperatures. But at the same time, I don't want to burn or overcook my chicken on either side. So that spinach and that tomato is just an extra barrier from the heat. Plus it just infuses more flavor back into the chicken.
Got it. So without that, basically you have some burn spots on that.
You possibly could.
Possibly would.
All right. We're gonna come back here and just make sure with our salt and pepper, I just season the spinach that's in here. Nothing too crazy, just, all right.
So why did you choose this dish to hook your wife?
All right. So, all right. I'll tell you guys a secret that I've never told my wife. Okay.
But she gonna hear it.
Well, I got her now. So
It don't matter.
So what I did is, because understanding my wife's palate is important. So if you're going to cook for a young lady, what you have to remember is you're not only serving a meal, you're serving an experience, and that she's paying attention to you, right? So as you're cooking, she's making sure she's watching how you manage things, how you do things. It's all kind of relative skills as you're doing that selective process of dating, right?
Gotcha.
So the trick that I tell any guy there is when you cook your meal, never have your meal fully done when she gets there, right? You always want to make sure you're maybe 50 to 75% through, so she has an opportunity to watch you in the kitchen and watch you cook and those things, because there's a lot that gets lost with interpretation, but there's also a lot that can be gained with just a visual of you doing that.
Gotcha.
So that's why I did it. So for this particular dish, I know my wife now was very funny about, she had a very interesting palate, right? So I didn't want to go too far left with, exotic meals or anything of that nature. So I can take something as simple as chicken, which everybody loves, and I can add my own twist, my own spin to it. The mashed potatoes, like I said, it's a stuffed chicken and mashed potato dish here. There's nothing really outstandingly complicated about it here, but it's what you can do with those simple ingredients that makes all the difference.
Right.
So I wanted to kind of jazz this up a little bit to kind of show her that I understand what her palate could be, but where I can take it as well. So,
Gotcha. Yo, he just said a lot. Basically said, hey girl, I understand where you at, but look at where I can take you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yo, y'all better take notes, man. Take notes. That's true though, man. That's a great great analogy and perspective that you put on it. That makes a lot of sense.
You can really find beauty in anything, right? Honestly, you can find beauty or the opposite in anything. You know, it's all interpretive, kind of what you make it into.
Right.
You know, so, you know, I wanted to take something simple and create something out of it. And I could take the same dish and same ingredient and probably create 10 different dishes from it.
Right.
But it was that I thought that she would like, she would appreciate, and it's actually become my favorite meal.
Wow.
So from our first date up until now, I make sure I keep this in the repertoire and have it cook it for her every now and then.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That is absolutely amazing.
You know,
I have to take 2 weeks out to eat. You get another guy.
hey, like the one thing about cooking is people think cooking is complicated.
Yeah.
It's really not. Like I said, once you understand profiles and flavors, cooking is as complicated as getting dressed in the morning or putting on a good suit.
Yeah.
If I'm wearing a black suit, maybe I got these colors to work with, maybe I got these shoes to work with, maybe I got this tie. Cooking is the same thing. Your protein is gonna be your suit, your ingredients are gonna be your shoes, your belt, your tie. As long as you mirror those things in to make sure you get compliments to each other, you're fine.
You're good.
Yeah. So I put my chicken in, so the chicken's going in. Next I'm gonna do is start working on the potatoes. So I'm gonna salt my water. Water's been boiled a little bit, so I'm gonna salt it, add our potatoes, and then I'm gonna start working on the sauce.
Okay.
Now the potatoes I have here were already pre-cut.
All right.
So they have been sitting. So I'm gonna add these guys back in and throw them back into the water. Let it come to a boil, we'll drain them off, and then we'll add the rest of our goodness to it.
So what type of mashed potatoes is this called again?
So these are Idaho potatoes.
Okay.
So the dish I'm making with it, this is a goat cheese chipotle mashed potato.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm taking the mashed potatoes, I'm boiling them down to create mashed potatoes, but then I'm gonna fold in goat cheese, ancho chili, and chipotle, peppers and sauce.
Okay. Nice.
Just gives it a nice little combination of flavors. It just, adds a little something different.
It sounds good, man.
I hope you enjoy it, man. I really do.
Man, I haven't had anything from you, food-wise. I don't.
See, man, you gotta stop. You don't give me a complex.
Hey, man, I'm telling you.
So while we got our potatoes going, I'm gonna start on our sauce as well. So this is gonna be the sauce to accompany the chicken here.
All right.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna start with about 2 cups of heavy cream. And we're gonna run that with about 4 tablespoons of butter.
What kind of cream was that?
Just regular heavy cream.
Heavy cream,
Yeah.
okay.
Now what we'll do, we got our butter cup, but we're gonna let this cream heat up a little bit before we add it to our mixture here. So this sauce is a pretty simple but flavorful sauce.
Okay.
So what this sauce is gonna do, it basically just accompanies the chicken as a compliment. So what it is basically just a sun-dried tomato cream sauce that we're gonna make, but we're gonna use heavy cream, we're gonna use sun-dried tomatoes, butter, fresh parsley, and we're gonna add some mozzarella cheese to it to thicken it up a little bit. We're gonna let that cook, let it simmer down a little bit, thicken up.
There we go.
All right, so what I just did was I just made our cream sauce. So once again, this is heavy cream, a little butter, this fresh chopped parsley, sun-dried tomatoes, and I added fresh mozzarella cheese in to thicken. So what I'm gonna do is let this reduce down a little bit, let this cook in. Once that'll happen, you'll start to get color and the sauce will start to thicken up a little bit more.
Okay.
So right about now, my potatoes have been boiling for maybe about a good 20 minutes or so. So I am going to test them out, see if they're ready. And we'll just give them a quick fork test, see if they're tender. All right, if they are, we'll pull them off and we'll start assembling. Okay. We'll good money. Once I've drained them, I'm gonna add them back to my pan here. Some people use mixers. I don't. I like to still hand mash mine. So, kind of old school method. Mash all these guys up. Then we can start pouring in all the goodness. So what I want to do is, with my potatoes, I want to make sure that they're mashed all the way through, but not to the point to where they're completely pulverized, because I still have to add my other ingredients and I still have to whip them with just a little bit by hand.
Okay.
So that should be pretty good there. Now, for our mashed potatoes, you got to season.
All right.
So, gloves first. Putting gloves on with a wet hand is not fun. All right. What we're gonna do, so this is goat cheese.
Okay.
Here. So I left it pretty much to get it back to room temperature so it's easier to mix. What I want to do is combine a little bit of parsley, a little bit of our ancho chili powder. And I want to mix that up a little bit. Now, what I'm hoping to gain back with this, adding this goat cheese, is creaminess.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are going to add back some butter and see how this turns out. We may be adding some more cream as well.
Okay.
So we're going to do about 4 tablespoons of butter to soften that up a little bit.
So I've seen some people use like milk.
You can't use milk. I like heavy cream instead of milk. For one, a lot of people's tolerance for milk is not all the same.
Right.
So the heavy cream is usually, it's better for me because it can be a little thicker.
Okay.
So I just prefer to use that. Based on that, I think I will use a little bit more heavy cream.
Okay. So between the heavy cream and milk, does it accomplish the same thing, or?
It can. Just depending on how many potatoes you're cooking versus how many it just depends on the amount that you're cooking for, the amount that you're serving to people. So for this, I'll probably start with maybe about a half a cup. Just layer that in. Give it a quick mix. Okay, there we go. Now that we got that, we'll add in our goat cheese. And by doing it this way, like I said, I didn't completely pulverize the potatoes when I came in and I mashed them by hand. But when they're hot and actually you're stirring in another ingredient, you actually get a chance to smooth them out a little bit more as well.
Okay.
It's definitely important if you're adding cheese into your potatoes that your cheese isn't cold. Because if not, you're going to just end up with more lumps and more of a mess than you actually want. Last thing we will add before this is complete is we're going to add some of our ancho chili powder.
All right.
And this is a blended Chipotle sauce. We're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of that. So this is necessarily not for heat, but just a little flavor. What I'm looking for when I'm doing my sauce, I'm just looking for a consistency. I want to thicken up just a little bit more.
Wow.
My chicken may be almost done, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it out. I'm gonna test the temperature on it. And because you always wanna cook chicken above 100. Well, you don't wanna overcook it. Chicken breast cooks really, really fast. But you always wanna make sure you cook chicken to a safe temperature of about 165 degrees.
165?
165 degrees. Anything lower than that, do not eat it. So let's check our temperatures here. Still got a little bit to go.
So you said it should be at 165?
165.
When you stick the
Yep.
instrument in it?
Right. Yeah, you want to definitely cook poultry to 165.
You say anything below that, don't eat.
Yeah, anything below that, no, definitely don't eat it. So it looks like right now we're about 161. We're about 4 degrees from our target temperature. So I'll put this back in for a quick second, and should mostly equate to maybe about another 10, 15 minutes.
So, a lot of people don't have this instrument you have here. So, how does that, I mean, I understand the importance of having it.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have it, what, like?
Well, if you're undercooking something, like chicken, like I said, it has to be at 165 degrees. You can look at it, you can smell it, you can touch it, and it's 162. You run the risk of somebody getting sick, salmonella, those kind of things.
Okay.
So I don't know how many times you go into restaurants and you've seen chefs walk around at Jack's and they have this little pin thing sticking up the side of their coat. That's what that is, it's a stick thermometer. Yeah. So you always want to make sure you have one on handy because, like I said, you want to cook things to its proper temperature.
Right.
For one, it's a good thing to understand certain things that you can cook in temperature ranges, certain things you can't.
Gotcha.
You don't ever want to undercook chicken. Steak, you can go rare, you can go all the way well done.
Right.
Pork, you can go maybe medium, you can probably go medium well to well done. Fish, all those things. But it's a good thing to understand like your temperature targets because, I mean, it can get really dangerous. You can really get somebody sick, especially with chicken, especially. Yeah, chicken is probably one of the worst ones that you can do because, like I said, it can spread, you can undercook it, you can get somebody sick, and getting food poisoning is not fun.
I've had that.
It's not fun at all.
It's it's one of those experiences that I never ever want to have again.
Definitely for sure.
So people that are cooking without that, or baking the chicken like you're doing without that, or say if you didn't have that, like how would you judge it?
Well, a lot of times what you can do is you can tell by the texture of the chicken. So a lot of people will either make a slit in the chicken and see if they see any pink, or when chicken is done, it develops a certain kind of, not necessarily stringy, because stringy means it's overcooked, but it'll develop a certain tendency. You won't see any pink, you won't see any like slimy parts. It's pretty firm, it's pretty dense.
Okay.
There. So you can easily tell by that as well, but I just rather be on the safe side.
Safe side with
that.
Yeah.
Because my eyes couldn't be as good as yours, or vice versa. So I just want to make sure, hey, let's let the science speak for itself.
Right.
That's what these things are made for. So
right.
it'll take the guesswork for me doing it. So.
That makes sense.
I'd rather do it that way. All right, guys. So now that everything's complete, we go ahead and start and plate our process here. Plate our first meal. So first we're going to start with a nice layer of mashed potatoes. What we're going to do is we're going to put those in the center of our plate. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add a few pieces of asparagus. We're going to put those just to the right. Then we're going to take our stuffed chicken breast. And we're going to lay that right on top here. From there, we'll take our cream sauce. And we'll drizzle it right over the chicken. And there you have it. All right, here we go, guys. This is our stuffed chicken breast with feta cheese, spinach and sun-dried tomato, with our Chipotle goat cheese mashed potato and lemon charred asparagus. Hope you guys enjoy.
Yo, so we about to try out this first dish, stuffed chicken and goat cheese Chipotle mashed potatoes. You can only get this here at Chef J's kitchen. You don't get this nowhere else. And once again, I apologize that I have to taste this in front of you all. Man, it looks and smells so good. If Jesus needed a chef in heaven, you taste everything, man.
That's why it's important to layer.
Everything. Let me tell y'all something. This will grab anybody. That's why I got a wife now. I'm stuck on the chicken for a second. Certain things, man, if it's not made right, not prepared right, it's not gonna work. Let's try these mashed potatoes. Hey man, you sure you don't want to open up a restaurant over there?
Glad you like it, man. Glad you like it.
Another day, another dish from ChefJbanks that never disappointed me. You taste everything. Listen, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. This is probably the best chicken breast I've ever had. As of today. This is good. No lie. I've never had this dish from him before. This is amazing, man.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing.
So you gonna give me a complex now, man?
Wait, listen. Amazing. Stuffed chicken breast, Chipotle mashed potatoes, asparagus. Listen, we're gonna have to have a brunch. Coming soon. Cruising with Gregory J and ChefJbanks brunch.
My God.
Look for it.